What's up everyone, and welcome back to HateWatchers. Today we continue on with our new review Roundup series, this time covering everything we watched in the month of March, both for the channel and for our own enjoyment, some of which we've talked about already, and some of which we haven't. So let's get right into things. And as a warning, there may be light spoilers for the shows and movies discussed herein, but nothing too serious that would ruin things. We'll kick things off with everything we saw on the big screen, and few movies are bigger than Dune Part 2. It felt like a long wait after the movie was delayed, but the wait was worth it. Where Dune Part 1 was a subtle, thoughtful film that meticulously introduced viewers to the fantasy universe of Dune, Part 2 was the in-your-face, bombastic payoff. Part 2 was epic in every sense of the word, with big sweeping shots, intricate sets that managed to feel unique amongst the many other fantasy franchises, and the hard-fought journeys of legendary characters. Dune Part 2 gives us hope, as it shows what movies can still be when a great story with interesting characters is made a priority over things like gender identity, skin color, what genitals someone prefers in the sack, and current-day political statements. And hopefully its box office success drives that point home. What we really appreciated about this second Dune film was how they managed to make such a good movie despite it being a very different movie than its predecessor. It's a true testament to the quality of the story and the talent working behind the scenes to bring it to life. And for that reason, we're eagerly looking forward to the all but confirmed Dune Part 3, Dune Messiah. Messiah promises to be a very different story from the first two films, so the creators have their work cut out for them in adapting the source material and maintaining the momentum they've built. Almost as good as Dune was Roadhouse. Just kidding, it was pretty bad. From starting off the movie seeing a CGI Post Malone in the fighting ring, because apparently the rapper can't throw believable enough kicks or punches, to Conor McGregor being butt naked not once, but twice, Roadhouse was something to behold. Just not in a good way. This one definitely felt like a B-level, straight-to-streaming movie that would have been straight to VHS 30 years ago. The dialogue, the story, the contrivances were all hilariously bad at times, and they really only served to bring the plot to the fighting scenes the movie wanted to be front and center. Conor McGregor really stole the show here, but not in the way you want. He had the same look plastered on his face in almost every scene. 90% of his lines had to be re-recorded in post because of how unintelligible he must have been on set, and he just played the angriest leprechaun you've ever seen. It really was something else, and it's kind of funny how someone so charismatic fails to adapt that talent on the big screen. Roadhouse is not a good movie, but if you just want to see some guys beating the shit out of each other in the Florida Keys, it's a serviceable thing to have on in the background, while you do more engaging things like vacuuming or cleaning the microwave. Ghostbusters was another disappointment, even though just like with Roadhouse we didn't expect too much from it going in. The sheer number of characters involved in this movie made almost every character non-viable. A grand total of one character kind of had a character arc, and everyone else just popped in and out to deliver their lines and move the story along where it was needed. The original Ghostbusters cast was mostly wasted as the movie opted to spend more time on its surface-deep subplots focused on the new characters. I want to highlight one comment from our Ghostbusters videos that stood out to me, which argued that Ghostbusters just isn't a thing. They had one great movie, and most everything else since then has paled in comparison. And I'm inclined to agree with that sentiment. Ghostbusters fans will certainly feel different, but to the casual viewer on the outside looking in, we just see attempt after attempt to capitalize on the franchise, and they've all failed to recapture the magic of the original. And the more attempts they make, the more the 1984 classic stands out far above the rest. Ghostbusters Afterlife wasn't a bad movie, but even from that low standard, Frozen Empire was a disappointment. Something I had even less expectations for was Godzilla multiplied by Kong. This movie and the rest of the Monsterverse just seem like another attempt to make a franchise out of a molehill. And it seems like a fool's errand to try and make something bigger and deeper out of movies that essentially boil down to just giant monsters throwing punches, shooting lasers, and destroying cities. And Godzilla x Kong was little more than that average monster movie, this time dumbed down with overly bright neon colors whizzing all around. The creators pretty much just thought, what would look the most cool, and threw it in the movie, shaping the story and dialogue around how to make those scenes work, rather than beginning with a good story and imagining the conflicts that would naturally arise from that. On the positive side, if you're into this type of movie, this one pretty much delivers on the inherent promise of a Godzilla or King Kong movie. There are a ton of titans duking it out, 2 Kongs, 2 Godzillas, Mothra, Tiamat, a giant crab monster. New Empire was like a full UFC card of monster fights, including early prelims, and the main event at the end. It was kind of funny how ornery Godzilla was in this movie though. He just hard-charged anything in sight for the whole movie, even traveling deep underwater just to pick fights with other titans. He was like a pit bull at a daycare full of toddlers. And I can't overemphasize how comically over-the-top, colorful, and bright this movie is. It's a simple film, but if you just want to turn your brain off and see 2 hours of monster fights splashed with neon paints, then you might like it. Moving from the big screen to the small, March felt busier for us in the realm of TV shows, largely thanks to our weekly coverage of Halo. Halo turned in another disappointing season, despite claims from before the premiere that Season 2 was significantly better than Season 1. Yes, I hear all the arguments that Season 1 was such unbridled white dog shit that Season 2 had to be better by default, and I understand that sentiment. But where it really counted, in its story, in its characters, and in its lack of adherence to the spirit of the Halo lore, not even to the letter of it, but just the spirit of it, Season 2 was at best equally as shitty as Season 1. I could give some leeway to Season 2 if the new showrunner had been saddled with so much baggage from the abomination that was Season 1 that they couldn't undo everything the freshman season did wrong, but it honestly did not feel like the new creative team had any more intention to do right by the Halo franchise than the original creators did. Check out our Season 2 review video if you're looking for a more in-depth discussion on why we thought Season 2 was just as bad as Season 1. Halo Season 3, which still has not been picked up at this point, promises to show the exploits of Master Chief and Cortana on the titular Halo, something that even disillusioned fans might tune in to see. So if Season 3 does become a reality, expect more of the same disingenuous, gaslighting marketing masquerading as reviews and genuine discourse as they try and generate buzz into the lead up to the new season. Something that has not been a disappointment so far is Shogun. This historical drama that seems poised to be something of a spiritual successor to Game of Thrones has been a bright spot amongst a mostly dark sea of letdowns this past month, and it's been a refreshing change of pace. While the show hasn't been action-packed, and after 7 episodes, still hasn't shown us the pitched battle between warring samurai that we're all holding our breaths for, it's been good in developing its characters into interesting people worth watching, and setting up the stakes that everyone will soon come into conflict over. Think of it in the same vein of House of the Dragon's first season, where it's taking its time to introduce us to all the pieces on the board as they're thoughtfully arranged in a manner that promises a more explosive second season. But even at this point, the comparisons to Game of Thrones are many. Rival houses vie for power, old alliances are tested, treachery abounds, there are shocking deaths. We even have a crazy bitch of a queen regent a la Cersei Lannister. Except this time, it's all grounded in historical reality. Shogun is historical fiction, but having it based on our real world and loosely based on real history, while taking place in a very easily romanticized place and period, all work in the show's favor, and we have high hopes for the rest of this season and beyond. We've had less time to watch things for our own personal enjoyment this past month than we did in February, but we still found some time nonetheless. I've gone back to watching Peaky Blinders. I can't really remember which season I stopped watching the show on, so I opted to start over completely. And I'm glad that I did. I had kind of forgotten how good the first couple of seasons are. It's just a cool show in a lot of ways. And apparently there's a movie on the horizon, so it's as good a time as any to go back and do what we call research around here. Also in the realm of research, I've been watching playthroughs of the Fallout games in preparations for next week's premiere of Amazon Prime's Fallout show. I've never played the games, so this is how I choose to familiarize myself with the game world. Little did I know that the franchise goes back to 1997, with the first 2 games featuring extremely little voice acting, making the process a bit of a slog. But the trailer for the show looks pretty promising, and I intend to review it, so I'm putting in the work. Lastly, the only thing that we've been watching purely for ourselves this past month has been Fargo. We never watched the show when it first came out, so we went back and finished Season 1 and 2, and we're halfway through Season 3. And to top it all off and complete this Fargo journey, we watched the 1996 movie as well. As for the show, we thought Season 1 was great, Season 2 was not good, and Season 3 is somewhere in between those two, thus far. And that wraps up everything we watched in the month of March. As you may have noticed, this is a somewhat shorter list than last month, simply because we weren't watching as much. As some of my other projects get wrapped up, however, expect us to watch a bit more in April. Thank you to those who made it to this point in the video. Just as with last month's review roundup, comment and let us know your thoughts on anything we discussed here, or let us know about anything you've been watching recently. Remember to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to HateWatchers for reviews of current shows and movies. Thank you for putting a wrap on Women's History Month with us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.